She's the former UFC bantamweight champion of the world, a truly major crossover sensation whose highest highs were just about as noteworthy as her lowest lows. Ronda Rousey was a true sensation during her best days in the sport, a force of nature in the cage due to her uncanny ability to make her opponents look like they had no business being in there with her. But over the last few years, the Rowdy One has made her fair share of enemies. This is why UFC fighters hate Ronda Rousey. Juliana Pena. It really is hard to gauge where Juliana Pena stands when it comes to Ronda Rousey, but there are more than enough reasons to believe that the UFC bantamweight champion really has it out for her. As part of Miesha Tate's team on the season of The Ultimate Fighter that saw her pitted against Rousey, Pena had quite a lot of first-hand experience with the Rowdy One, and based on comments she has made about Ronda a few years ago, it doesn't seem like she's a huge fan. According to Pena, Rousey walked around like she thought she was better than everyone, which at the time could well have been true, but even still, Pena believes that Rousey's arrogance was really something to behold. Jump forward a few years, and Pena is now in the position that Ronda once was, after beating the woman in Amanda Nunes, who had demolished Rousey a few years prior. When asked about the potential return of Rousey and how likely or unlikely it may be, Pena went from very politely stating that she would happily welcome Rousey back to the cage with open arms, to then stating that the fight game saw Ronda as something of a joke.
No, that's what I'm saying. She's kind of a joke in the MMA world now because what is the word? Sellout, like a little bit of a sellout there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I guess I understand, right? It's like pro wrestling. It's fake. You get paid millions of dollars. I get it. But like for me, for the real shit, for like you're the real deal, I would say that that's in the UFC. And if she ever wants any of that real smoke, I'm ready.
Miesha Tate. Out of all the fighters on this list, no one, I repeat no one, has endured more venom and all-out assaults from Ronda Rousey than Miesha Tate. As Ronda's original rival in Strikeforce, the fighter who held the title before Rowdy captured it, Miesha's connection to Rousey only strengthened as the pair signed to the UFC once Strikeforce dissolved. When Ronda captured the belt, the promotion saw the opportunity to cash in on her and Tate's shared history, setting them up for a memorable season of The Ultimate Fighter that really showed the world just how ugly things could get between Rousey and those who stood in her way. Though she was beloved by the masses, even Ronda's biggest fans were forced to admit that she could be pretty nasty when she wanted to be, with a famous example being when she defeated Miesha in the Coach's Challenge and proceeded to flip the bird and shout insults at her in celebration. Whenever Tate was asked about Rousey and their relationship, she made sure to take shots at what she perceived as insecurity. Funnily enough, when all was said and done and Rousey's era had run its course, it's almost fair to say that Miesha Tate is held to a higher level of love by the fans than Rousey is, and Cupcake's early prediction of her being insecure was proven to be totally on the money.
Just happens, you know. I can't help it that we kind of bother each other, you know. It's just the way that it is, you know. She likes to kind of carry herself around as this, you know, the tough girl act or whatever, and I don't know, she's funny. She talks about chinks in the armor and whatnot, but I mean, as you can see, you know, back here, I have no problem being around her, looking at her, you know. I had to deal with her for 6 weeks on end. So, and if she's ever wondering, you know, can I see when we do our standoff, whether she's shaking or not? Yes, I can.
Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen is one of those truly media-savvy fighters who knows exactly how to get his message out in the exact form that he wants it. Look up any compilation of Chael expertly dealing with the media, and you'll know exactly what we mean. So when Sonnen heard Ronda Rousey's extremely over-the-top and misguided reaction to a simple question from the media, asking whether she would be willing to return to MMA, or to quote it directly, if she would go back in time, her response was truly strange. As Chael puts it, the question was asking whether Rousey would even consider going back in time, not time traveling. But of course, the famously irritable Ronda took it up the wrong way, leading to one awkward encounter. Sonnen clearly disapproved, and it was not the first time he's been critical of Rousey's media handling over the years. And as one of the greatest trash talkers and interview subjects in the history of mixed martial arts, it's pretty fair to say that Chael Sonnen knows a thing or two about working with the media, and how to spot a total dud when it happens.
His words were, "Would you go back in time?" Which is how she chose to troll him and say, "No, I cannot go back in time." I didn't think it was that hot of a piece. I didn't think it was good, bad, or indifferent. I did find it a little bit annoying, like, hey, the host is doing you a favor by having you on, considering you're jumping around in the fake ring in Roddy Piper's clothes. I mean, this is a sports show, and you don't do sports, so maybe give the guy a little bit of slack.
Colby Covington. For someone like Colby Covington, who was never afraid to take shots at anyone, for any reason, Ronda Rousey would seem like an easy target, a simple way to ensure that you'll get clicks and keep yourself as relevant as possible. But surprisingly enough, Colby in general has been pretty complimentary of the former UFC star. However, on one occasion, shortly after Rousey's first appearance in the WWE, Covington went on the offensive, accusing Rousey of marking out and making the UFC and its fighters look bad. Colby himself has made no secret of the fact that he would like to take a shot at the world of professional wrestling, but he was certainly somewhat offended by how Rousey chose to pursue her new career. Now, of course, whether he actually feels this strongly or is just hamming it up for the cameras is anyone's guess, but as far as Rousey is concerned, it's pretty clear that she lost a fan in the welterweight contender.
It'll be the Ronda that we all know from the UFC, the one that, gets in girls' faces and, creates controversy and drama. But, she's acting like a mark, and she's really ruined it for UFC fighters, and she's giving us a bad name, and it sucks because I look forward to crossing over to WWE in the near future.
Paige Van Zandt. The names Ronda Rousey and Paige Van Zandt shouldn't really be brought in the same conversation. Paige, of course, fights at both 115 and 125 pounds, while Ronda has never left 135. But after Paige decided to make the perfect normal decision to congratulate Holly Holm on her victory over Rousey at UFC 193, to say that Ronda saw red would be an understatement. According to Miesha Tate, who relayed the story to Joe Rogan on a memorable episode of his Joe Rogan Experience podcast, Ronda and Paige were both attending an event. Paige decided that she would like to meet Rousey and who knows, maybe even get a picture with her. When Ronda's management very strongly hinted that Van Zandt should stay away from their client, something seemed off. According to Tate, Rousey ended up finding Paige regardless and proceeded to unload a firestorm of insults at her because of the simple fact that she congratulated her opponent, Holly Holm, after UFC 193. Paige supposedly stood her ground, telling Ronda that she is free to congratulate whoever she wants. But man, this story really does paint Ronda Rousey as an incredible sore loser, doesn't it?
She's like, we were at a shoot, and she's like, I was trying to find her so we could get a picture, and the Reebok people were like, don't ask Ronda for a picture. And she's like, why? And they're like, just stay away from Ronda, don't ask her for a picture. She's like, okay. And I guess Ronda came later that day and like seeked her out and just like cussed her out. Ronda came up and was like, fuck you, you fair weather bitch, how dare you cross me, blah blah blah. She's like, cross you? What are you talking about? And she's like, you congratulated Holly Holm for beating me, so fuck you, you fucking fair weather 115 pound. Like, it was just like, went off on Paige.
Remember, if you're enjoying our content and want to see more, be sure to leave a like before subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes had an air of confidence around her when she battered Miesha Tate to earn her first UFC title, and that confidence carried through to her first defense of the belt. Any bantamweight in the world would have been thrilled to sign on the dotted line for a battle against one of the biggest stars on the planet. But Amanda Nunes seemed to be taking it all in her stride. Sure, things never got too heated between the two, but that was because they never actually had a chance to go head-to-head. Rousey famously refused to do any form of media in the lead-up to the bout, something that really didn't go down well with Nunes. From her perspective, talking to the media was just part of the job, and it was almost disrespectful to try and use your power to cut a deal with the UFC brass. During this time, rumors began to circle about Ronda's mentality and how she handled the first loss of her career. And if we sensed it, you'd best believe that Amanda sensed it. Sure enough, when fight night came around, the Lioness put on an absolute clinic, destroying Ronda's legacy in one of the most one-sided fights you were ever likely to witness. The fight stats have Rousey landing a few shots, but in reality, it didn't really seem like she landed anything.
Honestly, I don't know what is wrong with her. I think this is an easy thing to do. Talk, everybody wanna see her, all the friends wanna see, and all the media wanna talk to her because she's been out for so long and never talked to nobody, and people putting her there, she kind of like no do anything about it, like kind of forget about. And I think she's supposed to do everything. I think UFC is supposed to make her do it because this is a huge show, and everybody wanna talk to her, and she like doing that. I don't know why, but I don't care. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Chris Cyborg. It's hard to believe now, but for years upon years, one of the biggest what-ifs in all of MMA was the dream matchup between Chris Cyborg and Ronda Rousey. At the time, Cyborg was queen in Strikeforce and later Invicta, while Rousey was of course dominating the competition in the UFC. And while things never did get to the stage where a fight was booked between the two, you could just tell that Rousey's management didn't want any part of the Brazilian featherweight. Every time Cyborg had a mic in front of her, she would make it very clear that a fight against the smaller, less well-rounded Rousey would not be competitive. Of course, in hindsight, it is easy to imagine just how that fight would have gone down, given just how bad a striker Ronda proved to be. But all in all, Cyborg was forced to endure the Rousey question each and every time she had a mic in front of her face. And trust us, as polite and cordial as she is to most media members, it was hard not to feel like there was some real tension bubbling, especially after Ronda repeatedly accused her of using steroids, when Cyborg was forced to threaten legal action against the UFC star. Unfortunately, this fight never came together, and the pair never had a chance to face off with microphones in front of their faces. And while Rousey has left the sport in disgrace, Cyborg, it could be said, is still doing quite well, owning the Bellator Featherweight Championship.
Why is that?
I don't know, maybe she's scary, I don't know. I don't know, maybe she's scary, she's having a lot of opportunities for fight me, and she's always hiding before because the belt, just if she drop her fight, man, make it Sammy McGregor, make it a nice fight for the fans.
Holly Holm. And finally, what better way to end this video than with a mention from the woman who brought the entire empire down. Few people gave Holly Holm a chance of avoiding Ronda's incredible range of submissions when their bout was booked for UFC 193, and even fewer gave her a shot at totally outclassing Rousey in every facet of the fight. She even managed to score a takedown on the legendary submission specialist, and when the finish came, that perfect head kick that left every MMA fan's jaw on the floor, it was something truly to behold. Prior to the fight, things had gotten pretty personal between Rousey and Holm. After Ronda accused Holly of being fake, of putting on a persona to live up to the preacher's daughter's nickname, Holm, to her credit, kept things professional, even though her rival was trying to destroy her character in front of a global audience. And like any great competitor, she let her actions speak louder than her words, proving her superiority over Rousey in what was truly one of the all-time great upset victories. Sure, Holly has had her fair share of ups and downs inside the cage, but it's pretty clear to see that Ronda made a big mistake when making an enemy of the preacher's daughter. Whether her comments lit an extra fire under the title challenge or not is anyone's guess, but the end result really did say it all.
So I just wanted to place my hand on the outside, that was it. And I could tell that she got really frustrated and like that and actually put her fist on my face, and I really didn't think that was called for at all. All I wanted to do was have my hand to the outside, and it was already frustrating her. And I really felt like all that sweetness and respect leading up to this point was really fake. And I saw it in that moment, and I'm going to show her what's up on Sunday, and I'm done with all of this.
And that will just about do it for this video. But what's your own personal take on Ronda Rousey? An all-time great who deserves the highest levels of praise, or a flash in the pan whose rise to the top was perfectly timed? Again, if you enjoyed today's video and want to see more, be sure to leave a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thanks for watching.